Recording. We are on episode 56 for Warrior Hour, which is pretty exciting. So we have our own little YouTube channel now. We have people that are actually like subscribed to it. How exciting is that? I never really thought that was going to happen. I always had this like YouTube that I would just like post videos to, but it never really had any like purpose. It was just like my workout videos or like my coaching videos that I would use for my coach training that I would share over and stuff like that. So it's kind of cool to actually have a YouTube that has like purpose and that somebody can subscribe to, and there's like constant videos being posted up to it. So I think that's pretty cool that you can also share these videos with people. Okay, you can share the whole link to the Warrior Hour subscription, or you could say like, man, this video that we talked about today would be awesome for so and so because we were just talking about this, you know, or something like that. Or say somebody's having issues with their relationship, right? You're talking to one of your challengers or one of your people and you're like, wow, they're having a lot of issues with their relationship. Maybe send them back to Warrior Hour 45 through 48. It's all about relationships, and they can go back and listen to 3 hours, probably more than that, because I think most of those videos were like an hour and a half of content about relationships. You know, it might be just something for you to be able to share with people. It's just really kind of nice. Plus, it's always kind of fun for me to go back and watch some of the stuff that we've talked about. It's been pretty cool. But today, oh, sorry, I must have closed out of that. We are going to go to Rachel Hollis. Oh, awkward. Did you guys see the first video was like Rachel Hollis and David announced their divorce and da-da-da. I'm like, this is so awkward. Like it's awkward to be like, oh, I'm like getting training from you while you're going through a divorce. Like it's just, it feels so weird. That's why I was like, honestly, you guys, when I was like, I don't know if she's gonna post a video or not, and I don't even know if I want to listen to it or not, because I was like, I'm a little weary of whatever is going on behind her doors, which is none of my business, except that it's her business. Does that make sense to you guys? Like, it's hard for me to want to take advice from somebody that their business was, you know, relationships, and to come to find out your relationship wasn't anything of what you said it was. So it's just really hard for me. Still is kind of hard for me. But the good thing is that it's not them. And they're probably still dealing with life, I'm sure. But it is, what's her name? Oh, Stacey Flowers. So taking care of your mental health is what we're going to be working on today. Okay. So I'm kind of excited. I think this could be a good video. Let's check it out.
Okay, so here we go. Man, I don't know why I just got nervous. You know, to be nervous, it's weird. Here we go. Welcome to the next 90 days. My name is Stacey Flowers, and I'm going to be talking about mental and emotional health and how to manage that in the middle of our current climate. So if you are interested in that, I highly encourage you to keep watching. For those of you guys who have been following my journey for any length of time, you know that mental and emotional health is the most important thing to me in all the land. There's no other aspect, component, ingredient, thing in my life that is more important to me than my mental and emotional health. And the reason for that is because I am very, very clear. I'm very, very, very certain. I am very, very, very in the know of knowing that everything that is showing up in my life right now rises and falls on the strength of my mental and emotional health. The reason why I'm actually able to show up in the middle of the climate that we have right now, and let's talk about that for a minute. What's in the climate? We have the pandemic going on. We have global unrest going on. I'm going through full-blown empty nest syndrome in the fact that my human being is now a whole entire adult. All of these great, massive, huge changes, many of them unpleasant, some of them traumatic, like things are happening around me, but I'm able to continue to show up, to do my work. I'm able to continue to show up for my family. I'm able to continue to show up for my community. I'm able to continue to show up for myself because I have incredible mental hygiene. I have incredible mental health. And I have that because I am very aware that every single thing that I'm ever going to have in my life, be it financial, professional, personal, emotional, romantic, every single thing that I'm ever going to have in my life is going to only be as good as my mental and emotional health. And as a result of that, I want everyone, every single person who is hearing me right now, who is watching this video, to get some understanding about what we can specifically do during this time to address not just what's going on in the climate right now, but also address the things that are going on within ourselves, so that no matter what, whether it's a pandemic, it's unrest, it's a transition that you knew was coming, it's an up, whatever the thing that shows up, your level of mental health is in a position to be able to help you to get through it. That is what I want, and that is what I'm going to be talking to you guys about today. But before I dive into that, I want to tell you guys a little bit about my mental health journey, because when I say mental health, I do mean it from a couple of different perspectives. One, the perspective of mental health as it's related to people being diagnosed with mental health disorders or conditions. I'm someone who's been professionally diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder. That is something that I'm managing, and I will be managing for the rest of my life. I had a fairly turbulent childhood, which resulted in a series of different traumas that I yet still manage to this day. And a lot of that management is simply because most of the triggers about those experiences are only showing up now in my adult life. So I mean mental health from that perspective. If you are someone who is currently managing any sort of mental health disorder, that is an aspect of your mental health. But I also mean mental health just from the perspective of, even if you've never been professionally diagnosed with something, what is your state of health as it's related to your ability to function mentally and emotionally, your cognition, your ability to perceive, your ability to be able to think, your ability to be able to reason. All of that is a part of your mental functioning capacity. You don't have to be diagnosed with something in order for you to not have good mental health. You can have poor mental health simply because you are not thinking for yourself. You can have poor mental health because you haven't figured out how to translate your thoughts into feelings and actually process them. You can have poor mental health if you are reacting instead of responding. So whether you are like me and you've been professionally diagnosed with something that you are actively managing, or you are someone who hasn't been professionally diagnosed, but you are not currently conscious to what it is that you're saying, doing, thinking, feeling, this particular week is all about helping each side, whatever side you're on, get to a baseline that supports you in showing up and being incredible, amazing, happy, successful, super fantastic and powerful. That is my aim. That is what I want. So I want you to understand that the heart of what I'm going to be sharing with you from a practical perspective is whether you're managing it on either side. So my particular mental health journey, the first time that I was diagnosed with anything was right around when I was in my early 20s. I was misdiagnosed, and that diagnosis was there for about 4 years. I was heavily medicated. There was just a lot that was very involved in that. And that was very difficult and very unfortunate because I wasn't as in tune with what needed to be done as I am now. Fortunately, I was able to get a proper diagnosis, and in me getting a proper diagnosis, that actually begun my journey to focusing on mental health and my journey to being very intentional about that. That begun me setting a firm foundation with respect to having a therapist. You guys know that I highly encourage therapy. Therapy is the best investment in all the land. And here's why. It's because a therapist is the only relationship that you're probably going to have in your lifetime that is 1,000% just for you. Your relationships with your friends are 2 ways. Your relationship with your spouse is 2 ways. Your relationship with your community, sometimes it's 1 way, often it's 2 ways. Your relationship with every other human being that you have on the planet is going to be some sort of 2-way dynamic. Your relationship with your therapist, you don't have to do anything for your therapist. All you have to do is be yourself. And that relationship is 1 way, with someone pouring into you, someone exploring and helping you. It is a relationship that is designed for you. And as a result of me having those early diagnoses with mental health disorders, I got involved in therapy very, very early. In me getting involved with therapy very, very early, I was able to find a therapist who's wonderful. This is the person that I have in my life who is specifically for me. She doesn't do anything else but help me. Like, that's her one job, is to be there for me. And I love that dynamic, because if you are someone who's managing, a diagnosed mental health condition, or you're someone who's just trying to improve your mental health in general, having someone who's just for you, hands down the best thing in all the land. So when I'm coming from a mental health perspective, I have that foundation already where I do have a mental health professional who I can call, who I can go and visit, and who I can go do all of the things with. In addition to me having a therapist, I also have a coach. And a coach is someone who works on my mind and who works on my mental and emotional health in a different way than my therapist does. And I'm mentioning these two people to you because I understand that my foundation for mental health may be a little bit different than your foundation for mental health. The strategies that I'm going to offer to you work whether you have what I have in my foundation or you don't, but I just want you guys to have a framework for where I'm coming from. I have put in a lot of work in order to get my mental and emotional health to the position that it's in right now, whether it was through the investment in my therapist or through the investment in a coach. So I'm starting my mental health understanding and awareness at a solid foundation, right? The things that I would encourage you to put on top of a very solid foundation as it relates to everything that we're doing and everything that we're experiencing in this current climate are things that exist at 3 levels. I would encourage you from a mental health perspective to put something in at the level of your head, right? Like your head as in your brain, your mind, etc. I would encourage you to put something in at the level of your heart. And by your heart, I mean like your heart center that's actually right here. And then I would encourage you to put something in at the level of your hand. And when I say your heart, I mean those emotional things, this physical heart that you have. And when I say your hand, I mean those tactical, practical things that you have. And so I want to break that down, right? Establishing a mental health foundation. If necessary, invest in professionals to support you. If it's not necessary, or if it's not something that you're in a position to do, the next best thing is to establish simple mental health practices at these 3 levels in order to be able to help you to find the peace within the climate that we're having, to find the confidence to potentially be able to speak if that's something that's necessary, to find the safety to be able to secure yourself and your family, to find the ability to be able to walk through this. Really, one of the ways that I've been describing it is just like it feels like the world is on fire, to be able to walk through this season when it feels like the world is ablaze. Like that comes from solid mental and emotional health, and that happens at 3 different levels. So I have a couple of notes because I want to make sure I get this right for you guys. So at the head level, right, when I'm thinking about your mental and emotional health from a head perspective, I am thinking about any of those mental patterns that you have that are blocking you from being able to have a clear perspective on what is actually happening in your life, in your immediate influence world life, and then the world at large, like any of the things that's influencing that. And probably the number one thing that's influencing that, you guys are not going to want to hear this, but I'm just going to say it anyway, is what you actually are consuming. And I mean what you are consuming literally as in what you are drinking, but then also what you are consuming in terms of what's shaping your thoughts. So the thing that you should be drinking right now, if there was ever a thing to drink, it would be water. And you want to know why you should be drinking water? It's because there's a big chunk of our brain that is just basically water. And the best fuel for our brain is water. And there are so many people right now who are trying to fuel their brain with alcohol. They're trying to fuel their brain with caffeine. They're trying to fuel their brain with high fructose corn syrup. They're trying to fuel their brain with juice. They're trying to fuel their brain with all of these different drinks that are comforting, right? Like they bring us some comfort, but they don't actually properly fuel the brain. And here's what, guys, if your brain is not properly fueled right now, while we are experiencing worldwide global unrest, while we are experiencing a pandemic, you are not going to be able to have the mental wherewithal to get through this season, to grow through this season, to become the very best version of yourself as it relates to what this season is pushing out of you. You're not going to be able to do that. Your brain, your head literally needs the best fuel in all the land, and that fuel is water. I don't know what the percentages of how much your brain is water. I should have looked it up, but a really big chunk of it is. And the way that I liken it to is that, like, if you had a car and you needed to get your car, 5 miles, you wouldn't go put coffee in the tank. You wouldn't put water in the tank. You wouldn't put some high fructose corn syrup. No, you would put gasoline in it because that's what it takes for a car to run. And when you were thinking about your mental and emotional health, sometimes it's as simple as putting in the fuel that it takes to run. And your brain runs on water. Anytime I have to think through a difficult thing, anytime that I have to process, you guys will see I will have a bucket of water next to me because as I am processing, my brain is needing the fuel that it needs. So the first thing is like, get your water, Drink your water. Pour that water into your body. Your brain, your head space needs more water. That is the first very simple thing that you can do to improve your mental health during this time. The second thing, in addition to consuming more water, is to check in with your consumption contribution ratio as it relates to what you are putting in your mind. And what I mean by that is, me personally, I always contribute 3 times as much as I consume. That means whether it's Netflix, whether it's Instagram, TV, a conversation with a friend, I don't care. If I am consuming information from other people or other sources, my ratio is 3 to 1. I cannot consume 3 pieces of content before I've made some sort of contribution in my life, in my work, at some level. I have to do it that way because the overconsumption of information shuts down the brain, and you need your brain to be able to manage for all of the stuff that's coming up right now. And what I am noticing that's happening is there is an overconsumption of information and not enough contribution. And I'm not saying contribution in that you have to find a soapbox and stand on it and begin to declare all of the things that you know. No, I'm saying contribution in that maybe you just watched a film and it educated you on something, and your contribution could be you taking that information and going to your journal and writing out what you actually think and feel about it. That is a contribution. That is you contributing to turning that information that you just required into knowledge, so that one day it might become wisdom. Because most of us, we have information, right? And we're like, oh, I have all this information and I want to just skip to wisdom and I want to immediately implement it. But you can't go from information to wisdom. You have to go from information to knowledge, and all knowledge is information that is known to you, knowledge, right? And then out of knowledge, then you can begin to apply it and have an aspect of wisdom. And so right now we're experiencing a global unrest. There's so many sensitivities around the racial injustices that are going on right now, and there's so much information that is probably coming at you about what you should do, what you should think, what you should feel, what you should know, what you don't know. All of that information is coming at you, and so many people are trying to run from information right into wisdom without actually digesting any of the information enough so that it becomes known to them in such a way that there is a lifestyle shift, there is a change of heart, there is a change of mind that happens, that you don't need to go back and consume more information in order to implement next right actions. You can simply go back to the last thing that you consumed and digest and still show up in action out of that. That's what I mean when I say, in terms of you managing your mental health and doing it during this time, you need to check in with your ratio. How much information have you consumed versus how much information have you actually contributed or transferred to the level of knowledge, so ultimately it could become the wisdom in your life. My ratio is 3 to 1. And I'll tell you, my friends are super upset with me right now because shows that I love to watch are Billions. I really love Insecure, and I love these shows, but I'm not watching them right now because to indulge in these shows right now based off of the contribution that I'm able to make, because my contribution is a little bit less because I am experiencing the pandemic. I am experiencing the injustices that are happening inside of my community. My contribution is less, so my consumption of information, even if it's for entertainment, must be less, because a ratio that serves me and my mental and emotional health is 3 to 1. So for every one piece of information that I can consume, whether it's educational, entertainment, informational, inspirational, it doesn't matter. If I can't make a 3-part contribution via me journaling, me maybe showing up and expressing it in a morning show, me, converting it into a speech, me being able to discuss it among my friends, me being able to see how it actually applies to my life, if I'm not able to convert it into some form of contribution where I know that this information has been digested by me, I don't then continue to consume. I don't continue to consume to the point where I'm vomiting information, where I'm vomiting behavior and actions that's not suitable to me maintaining my mental and emotional health. That is not something that I do. That is not something that I encourage you to do. What I encourage you to do is think about your head as it relates to your mental and emotional health. Think about giving it the fuel that your brain needs, aka water, and then think about your consumption versus contribution ratio as it relates to information. Is this information that is known to you, aka knowledge, something that you have digested? And if it is that, are you now applying it as wisdom in your life? That is the first thing. The second thing that you want to focus on is that heart space. What is going on in your heart? This is all about the emotion feeling place. So many people want to do all of their emotions through their head space. That's not where it goes. Your head is all about thinking, rational, reasoning, etc. When we get into our heart space, the reason why this affects our mental and emotional health so much is because everything that we're thinking eventually gets converted into a feeling. If you ever want to know why you're feeling what you're feeling, all you have to do is ask yourself, well, what am I thinking? And that will give you a clue as to why it is that you're feeling what you're feeling. In terms of being able to manage and maintain your mental health, it's important that you do a check-in and you go into that space. The two things that I would recommend here are very similar to the first. Is water is number one. You need to put more water into your heart space. You guys are going to get tired of hearing me say water, but the reason why I highly encourage water is because you guys most people are not aware of how much our physiology affects our mental and emotional health. And when your physiology is off balance because of what it is that you were drinking, it dramatically affects your mental and emotional health, right? Like caffeine energizes us, alcohol depresses us. There's so many different ways that liquid affects us, and it's so easy to put that into our system. It's so easy to bring that into our life that often unintentionally and unconsciously, we are doing things to negatively impact our mental and emotional health because we're just not being intentional about consuming more water. So thing number one, if you want to deal and better process your emotions, better process your heart space, drink more water. The second thing that I would highly recommend is for you to develop a gratitude practice. My gratitude practice is that every single day, every single morning, rain, snow, sleet, sunshine, it doesn't matter. I am up in the morning and at least for about a half an hour, and as of late it's been closer to around 90 minutes to even maybe 2 hours when I went to the beach the other day, but at least for a half an hour I am expressing gratitude. And I literally walk and I say the words, I am so happy and grateful for, and then I insert something that I currently have in my life or something that is coming into my life. So typically it'll look something like this. I'm so happy and grateful for my lungs and my liver. I am so happy and grateful for the ability to be able to think. I am so happy and grateful for my peace of mind. I am so happy and grateful to be 100% debt free. I am so happy and grateful for my love life. I am so happy and grateful for the health and vitality of my family and friends. I'm so happy and grateful for my amazing and supportive friends. Now, in all of those statements, not all of that is something that I have right now, but the way that I express it as if I already know that it is coming to me or it is already something that I possess. And I do that for a couple of reasons. One, because it was taught to me that you can't have a grateful thought and a hateful thought at the same time. And there is no other time in my lifetime where we need people to have less hateful thoughts than right now. And a lot of people, despite their best efforts, are having a ton of hateful thoughts. And we're having a ton of hateful thoughts because a lot of people are in the state of reacting to so much that's going on instead of responding to what's going on. When we react, that is this unprocessed, unfiltered thing that happens before we even have a chance to really figure out what has happened, right? When we respond, what I like to think of respond is the root word of, like, respond is the beginning of responsibility. When I think of someone who's responding, I think of someone who has taken full responsibility for what it is that they're thinking and feeling and doing before they're actually showing up with any type of behavior. And most people just aren't doing that because their thoughts and their feelings are so hateful. They're so dark that all they have the capacity to do is respond. And there's nothing that moves you out of that space faster than an attitude of gratitude. There's nothing that clears up the hate that could otherwise exist in your heart than an attitude of gratitude, because you cannot have a grateful thought and a hateful thought at the same time. And I get it. A lot of people are like, okay, Stacey, gratitude, that's your solution right now while we're in the pandemic and there's global unrest and there's this and that. That's your solution. Yes, that's my solution. And I would argue that for some of you guys who doubt the power of that solution, I want you to open your mind to the idea that many of you are now simply aware of what I have been living my entire Black life, right? And I was grateful in the midst of it. I've been grateful in the midst of it. So if I have the capacity to be living what you are now aware of and still getting up in the morning, practicing gratitude, there must be something to it that is serving my heart. There must be something to it that is serving my mental and emotional health, because while I understand that a lot of people are like, there's nothing to be grateful for in the middle of a pandemic, there's nothing to be grateful for in the middle of global unrest, some of us have been living with these injustices and we have still been grateful. Don't let your now awareness be the excuse that you use to not do the work of finding a thought that will change the way that you feel about yourself, about the people that you interact with, about the country that you live in, about the company that you work. Do not allow what is happening right now, that awareness, to be the excuse to keep you from a practice that will set your heart to the right space so that ultimately your mental and emotional health can be in a position to enable you to do the work that we need you to do, whether that's you showing up as an ally for the injustices that are going on, whether that's you showing up as a very specific voice for the health that we need to do in terms of practicing things to keep ourselves safe and keep ourselves alive. Whatever the thing is that you could possibly do, don't allow the excuse of your now awareness to say that gratitude isn't enough, because gratitude is the thing that took me from being a teen mom, a teen parent statistic, to a teen parent success. Gratitude is the thing that lifted me out of me experiencing nervous exhaustion just 3 years ago. Gratitude is the thing that's helping me to be able to respond lovingly and compassionately to people who are in the Black community who have something to say about what I'm doing and not doing, and people who are in the non-Black community who have something to say about what I'm doing and not doing. Gratitude is the thing that is helping me to be able to respond to the fact that I'm in a pandemic and right now I'm limited in the amount of human interaction that I can have. Gratitude is the thing that's giving me the power to be able to continue to use my voice in a time where I would otherwise want to be silent, because I am quite triggered by what's happening, what's going on. I am quite traumatized by what's going on. It is gratitude. It is me waking up and clearing out the hate that could otherwise bubble up in my heart by simply using my legs to walk around and using my voice to express that I am so happy and grateful that on this day, I have this camera to be able to deliver this message to you, that on this day, I'm still waking up with a peace of mind. On this day, I'm 100% debt free. On this day, my son has a full ride scholarship to college. On this, I'm waking up every single day with an attitude of gratitude so that my heart stays in the right position, so that my perspective on what is actually happening and what I get to do versus what I have to do, what I can do versus what I'm out of control. I do not ever lose perspective on that, because I clear up the emotional things that are going on in my heart with gratitude. So that is what I would offer to you, is for you to drink your water and for you to find a gratitude practice. My gratitude practice involves moving my body, because in 2017, I couldn't get out of bed. I literally lost the ability to be able to physically move without being in an extreme amount of pain. So I take my gratitude practice to the pavement, to the beach, to the sand, to wherever, to outside, to remind myself that, Stacy, your limbs are moving. You can do this. You can keep going. You can, that is the way that gratitude suits me. Some people, they write their gratitude. Some people, they just express their gratitude. Whatever your gratitude practice is, I highly encourage you, for the sake of your mental and emotional health, especially during a time like this, to develop a gratitude practice and do it every single day. That is thing number 2. The third and final thing that we talked about is, right, we've talked about what we can do at our head level. We've talked about what we can do at our heart level. The next thing is at our hand level. And when I think about our hand, I think about like the practical, tactical things that we're doing. And I said it 2 times. I'm going to say it again. You want to drink some water. You guys are going to get tired of hearing me say that. It's like, what does water have to do with my mental health? It has everything to do with your mental health. Like, water fuels the body, it fuels the heart, it fuels the brain, it just fuels everything. So drink water, right? Don't want to beat that horse again. The other thing is, when I think about things from a mental health perspective, that as it relates to releasing things from my hand or putting different things in my hand, what really comes to mind is my physiology and what affects my physiology. So I talked a little bit about how what you drink affects your physiology, but also what you eat affects your physiology. And when I tell you, I had no idea that food actually affected my mental and emotional health. Like, it blew my entire mind to learn that the foods that I ate actually affected the chemistry in my body, which ultimately affected my brain's ability to be able to process my thoughts, my feelings, and my actions. Had no idea. Now, you would think as a mom, I would know this, right? Because I have a kid and I understand that when I fed him sugary things, he was a very different kid than when I fed him green things. But it didn't translate. There wasn't a connection between my mental and emotional health, my ability to be able to respond with compassion versus frustration. It didn't connect. There was just not a connection that said, oh, if you eat these tacos, you're going to have a different reaction than if you eat this kale. It just didn't connect. So the second practical thing that I would have you do at the hand level is to really think about the foods that you're consuming during this time. Because we are in global unrest, because there is so much injustice that we are seeing, and it is being like constant, no matter what platform you are on. Every single human being on the planet right now, probably with the TV, who is either like hearing the news about the injustices or hearing the news about the pandemic, is the most sensitive that we will probably ever be ever again in our lifetime. Everybody is sensitive. And what happens when the human being is sensitive is all we want is safety and comfort. And one of the easiest ways for us to find safety and comfort is through food. It is the easiest thing. And so that is why you will find that during this time, you are probably reaching for more buttery, sugary, greasy, buttery, sugary, greasy, comforting style foods, because there is signaling going on between mentally, emotionally, and what you're doing that is saying, you know what, we are in a state of confusion and uncertainty, and I need some comfort right now, and I need to feel safe right now. And there's no better way for the body to secure itself than to add on the pounds. First of all, that's just a historical biological thing. We'll talk about that some other time. But there's no better way for the mind to believe that everything is okay than for it to be satiated with some type of food that actually changes the chemistry that's going on. So for example, with bread, because bread breaks down into a form of sugar, it actually sends more information and communication to the brain that you're in a happier state, and so on and so forth. And so then you feel more excited and loved and all, just because you ate a piece of bread. Like, it's mind blowing, but bread can do that to us. Food can do that to us. And so during this time where we know that everyone is incredibly sensitive, and we are probably experiencing a lot of sensitivity, we are probably experiencing emotions that we don't normally experience on a constant basis: guilt, terror, rage, frustration, anxiety. These are not emotions that the body is designed to sustain over long periods of time. And if we do have those emotions over long periods of time, it does begin to negatively impact our mental and emotional health. And the way to combat that, if therapy or a coach or something at the professional level is not available to you, the way to combat that is with your physiology. And the way to impact your physiology swiftly is through the foods that you eat. And so a challenge that I want to issue to you guys is to just right now, as you're listening to this, take out a piece of paper. Hopefully you've had a paper out and you've been taking notes, but if not, now's a good time to take out a piece of paper and write down 6 foods that your body loves, like quickly. What are 6 foods that you know when you eat this, your body is like, thank you for eating these foods. The 6 foods that my body loves are kale, sweet potatoes, red beans. Oh my goodness, I've just lost my train of thought. So kale, sweet potatoes, red beans, Brussels sprouts, and it really loves water, but that wasn't the other food item. Oh, steak. Oh, that's 5. I have one more. What's my other food that my body loves? Cauliflower. I don't know why that took me so long to do it. Maybe because I was thinking off the top of my head. So I'll say it again. Kale, cauliflower, Brussels sprouts, steak, red beans and rice, and sweet potatoes. My body loves those 6 foods. So you want to know what foods I am consuming in great quantities right now? those 6 foods. Why? Because I know that if I give my body the food that it loves, I will essentially be putting the fuel in it that it needs to be able to send all the energy that it needs to my brain so that it will function properly. So that when I have a thought, I'm able to process it. When I have an emotion, I'm able to process it. If I were to put foods in my body that only my taste buds like, I promise you, you would be getting a much more frustrated, saucy, not an awesome person. You would not be getting a person who could put a clear thought together in the middle of my community experiencing deep injustices, in the middle of my community experiencing just horrible, like things that I would have never thought that I would have had to experience in my lifetime, given my actual history. But because I'm choosing with my hands tactically to eat foods that fuel my body, it ultimately supports my mental and emotional health. So you probably already have the 6 foods that your body loves written down. Next to that, I want you to write the 6 foods that your taste buds love, because I think the foods that our body loves versus the foods that our taste buds love are very, very different. And in times of sensitivity, in times of lack of felt sense of safety, in times of high emotions, in times like the times we are living in now, your knee-jerk reaction is going to be to reach for foods that your taste buds love, because that's an easy win. As soon as you put it in your mouth, boom, there's a reaction of dopamine of like, yes, I made the right choice. This is so great. This donut is perfect. Like there's an immediate felt sense of control. There's an immediate felt sense of satisfaction because your taste buds are right here, so close, the reaction is super, super fast. Versus eating foods that your body loves, it takes a little bit of time, right? You gotta take it through the mouth, take it through the digestion. It takes a couple of weeks, maybe days before it shows up in your body, your skin, whatever. And we want right now more than anything those immediate results, those immediate reactions. So many people are reacting, right? We're not responding. And because of that, we're consuming things that are just not good for us. So the same way that you wrote down 6 foods that your body loves, write down 6 foods that your taste buds love. So like my taste buds love macaroni and cheese. They love anything with butter on it. My taste buds love the brand, I think it's Harpo snakes. They're like these sweet and sour snakes. My taste buds they really like high fructose corn syrup and sugar. My taste buds love pound cake. I mean, my taste buds are like, they like dairy and sugar is essentially what my taste buds love. But literally, dairy and sugar are the absolute worst things for my body. Sugar gives me brain fog, and it would take me, I usually read about 3 books a week. It would take me like a month to read a book if I was consuming sugar at the rate right now that I want to, because I'm so sensitive. If I was consuming high fructose corn syrup, if I was just appeasing my taste buds right now, I wouldn't be here doing this for you. Same thing with dairy. My body doesn't like dairy. There would be so much acne and all of these different things happening on my face if I was consuming dairy right now. But because I know these things, what I choose to do to maintain my mental and emotional health, because what I look like does affect my mental and emotional health. What I feel like, dairy also makes me very, very sluggish, affects my mental and emotional health. Brain fog, if I'm not able to think through, if I'm not able to read, if I'm not able to process, that affects my overall confidence and my ability to be able to speak and articulate a point. Like, all of those things affect my mental and emotional health, but so many of us aren't considering the idea that we can improve our mental and emotional health if we just think about the things that are at the end of our hands that we're about to put in our mouth. Something as simple as the food that we're eating. If you want to take it to the next level, you can think about the food that you're eating. You can think about the things that you're putting on your body. You can think about anything that your hand touches that you actually allow to interact with you as a person. All of that affects your mental and emotional health. And right now, more than ever, we need sound mental and emotional health. And I believe that if we would all take the time to consider what is going on in our head, right? If we were to take the time to think about what we are consuming versus what we are contributing, and we even out a ratio to make sure that we are digesting the information that's coming in, that we would have much healthier, much stronger mental and emotional health. I believe that if we were to take the time to think about what's going on in our heart space, to actually develop a gratitude practice, to develop a practice that redirects our thoughts so that they are not hateful, so that they are grateful, so that our heart is positioned to be able to receive and listen and learn and grow and develop, I believe that that would uplift our mental and emotional health. Yes, even in the middle of this pandemic. And last but certainly not least, I believe that if we became more intentional and more conscious about the things in the foods that we were actually consuming, and we only consume those foods, it would give us the mental and emotional health that we need to get through a time as this. I hope that that was incredibly helpful to you. Until next time, I will talk to you all very, very soon. Bye.
All right. I don't want to press cancel. Okay. Okay, let me stop the screen share. 73% water. That's good to know. I was actually meant to look that up as well, Nicole. I was like, I wonder what it is. I think that's cool. Okay, so I took some notes during this. It's so funny though, because sometimes I forget all the work that we've already done. Because I was like, watch that, and I'm like, yeah, we know all this. Like, I mean, it's good to reiterate it. I think it's always good to hear it again. And so there were still things that she said that I was like, oh yeah, that's a really good way to connect that, or that's a really good way to say that. Even though I may have already known that information, it was just an interesting perspective to look on it as, of course we know we need water, right? Like, we're a health community. Water is the first thing I usually put people on before I even sell them anything. Like, I ask them, how much water are you drinking, right? Or like, what is your biggest vice? And if people say pop, I don't go and sell them a challenge pack. The first thing I do is say, okay, we got to get you off the pop. We got to get you on water. I didn't sell you anything, but we just got to make that quick change. And if you can make that change, then we can start working towards getting you healthier. So for me, it was good to just hear that reiteration of water. And also, I think sometimes it's like a mom of like I can tell you guys a million times, but I'm like a mom to you guys too sometimes. It's like, yeah, that's Jenny talking about water. Right? Like, but sometimes when you hear it from somebody else, all of a sudden, just like, you yell at your kids all the time. You're like, you should be doing this. And then all of a sudden somebody else says it to your kid, and all of a sudden they start doing it. And you're like, seriously? I've been telling you that for how long? Sometimes it just takes that other person to reiterate it, right? So I can tell you to drink water all day long, but the way that she put it into perspective of, you're not functioning on any level like you think you should be or can be if you're not drinking water. Bottom line. If your brain is not where you want it to be, if your body is not where you want it to be, it's water first. Okay? So that's why, like, I always love like 2B mindset. 2B mindset is water first, veggies most. Right? Like, that's literally what she thought. Is like, put water in your body and eat some freaking vegetables. Like, those are the first two things to 2B mindset. Those are the first initial laws of 2B mindset, or rules of 2B mindset, is water first and then eat some freaking veggies. So I love this video because it just reiterates everything that I think we teach or preach or talk about in coaching or in Beachbody. It's funny because I forget sometimes that these videos have nothing to do with Beachbody, because sometimes I'm like, yeah, Rachel would make a great coach. She should join our team. Like, because I'm like, because that's what we do though, you guys. It's like, your mental capacity is not going to be there if you're not physically choosing the things that you need to be choosing. If your heart isn't centered on what it needs to be centered on, the mental aspect of whatever it is that you're doing is not going to be what you think it should be, because you're not fueling your body correctly. You're not putting the things in or around your body that you should be. Okay, so I'm just going to kind of start back at the beginning of what you talked about, which one I wrote down was water. I'm going to try and like shift my mindset to that whole 3-to-1 thing. I honestly have no idea how much I'm consuming compared to how much I'm contributing. I like literally was like, what? I have no idea. I think that I contribute a lot, but I also know that I consume a lot. So I'm wondering what my actual ratio is, right? Like, how much am I actually consuming compared to contributing? How much, like, what is my ideal actual ratio? Because I'm wondering if I actually put it into perspective, how off or on I'm going to be with her little set. So I think from here, for that, is monitoring ourselves at this point. Maybe we have no idea. Like, I'm sure you guys are like me. I have no idea how much I'm consuming. I don't know. I sat and watched like 4 movies yesterday. I'm assuming that's too many by her ratio, right? So I just kind of been checking in like, okay, maybe instead of 4 movies, I watched 2 movies and then I should have went on a walk. Or maybe, you know, I mean, but then I'm like, okay, but I also made dinner and my family did this. And so I'm like, maybe I'm not so bad. Maybe I'm a little off. I have no idea. But now's the chance to start monitoring it. That's how I feel about that. And then maybe we can come back in a week or so, or maybe somebody will notice, wow, I was consuming, and I wasn't contributing at all. And I didn't even realize that until it was put into perspective to me that every time I consume something, that I need to be journaling about it or talking to somebody about it or contributing in a way. I'm still kind of like wondering what else I can contribute also, other than like she said, to like write it down. So like when we're consuming something, you write it down. Bless you. You know, if you're writing it down, that was one way to contribute it. And then also I'm assuming like talking about it, or maybe like here, Warrior Hour, to me, this is contributing, right? Not just consuming, but maybe for you guys, this is different. This is consuming for you, right? You're not pumping out the information. So right now you're actually consuming, but in my world, I'm contributing. So yours is going to look different than mine as well. In places that I may be considered contributing, you may be consuming, or vice versa. You may be consuming or contributing and I may be consuming. So just know that other people may not be on the same level as you, or may not be doing the same thing as you at the same time. I think that is where we could get confused sometimes, is like we consume something and then we're running to contribute and maybe someone else isn't. And we're like, well, why aren't they? Well, maybe they weren't in that same headspace as you. Maybe they weren't consuming that. Maybe they were actually contributing in a different way. So just know that where you're contributing or consuming has to do with you. It's a personal thought and experience, okay? Not, oh, they're consuming, or it's not a chance for you to identify whether somebody else is contributing or consuming, okay? So, because I know like the first thing what we'll want to do is like, oh, you're consuming so much, right? Like, is to focus on the rest of our family or focus on our husbands and be like, oh, I'm not supposed to be consuming that much, but you're consuming so much, right? Like our first thought is to like probably like point the finger, and I want you to not do that. Okay, so before we even get to that point of like pointing the finger at other people consuming too much, or pointing the finger at you're not contributing enough, I just want it to remain focused on ourselves. Okay, keep that focus on yourself. Don't worry about whether somebody else is contributing or consuming. That's not your job to monitor. Your job is to monitor your own consumption and your own contribution. Okay, so that was one thing, like when I was listening to what she was talking about, I just really wanted to reiterate, it's not your job to monitor other people's contributions or consumption. It's your job to monitor your own. Okay, because maybe in your mindset you may think they're consuming, but maybe in their mindset they think they're contributing. Okay, it's not up to us to decide when other people are doing it. Okay, it's us to decide when we are doing it. Okay, so I really wanted to make sure I kind of like talked about that. Did anybody else hear the ambulance in the back of her video? At first I was like, is that at my house? I was like, is that it? Because we live right beside, like across the street is a fire department. But I was like, it's not coming through my house. It's like, I must be coming through the video. It took me a second. It's funny. Okay, so let's move on to gratitude. I think this is going to be definitely something. Okay, was anybody else like blown away when she said that she took 2 hours to do gratitude? I literally wrote down, who has the time for that? It's like, who has time to like just take 2 hours to go like walk on the beach and be so grateful? I was just like, ah. But that was like my first initial reaction. So I'm just being honest with you guys. I'm thinking I could probably like chisel out 10 to 20 minutes. That was like my max. I felt like that I could chisel out. Yeah, 5 minutes. I'm good on that. Like, I'm like, I was like, she doesn't have a kid. How does she chisel out 2 hours? Maybe every once in a while. Yeah, maybe I could take a long walk or maybe go for my run, for 30 minutes or something like that, and really kind of say, okay, during my run, I'm going to practice my gratitude. I'm going to really make an effort to be grateful throughout my whole run, right? Like as I'm running, I'm just going to be grateful for the trees on my left. I'm going to be grateful for the bushes on my right. I'm going to be grateful for my stride and my feet that are working and the clothes that are on my body. And maybe I can just find something in that moment to always be grateful for. But when she said 2 hours, I was like, holy crap. It's like this quarantine gave her way more time on her hands than it did to me. I don't know. But I was thinking, like, what if we could spend 10 minutes? What if you could spend 10 minutes when you wake up to find 3 to 5 things that you can just jot down in the journal and just say, wow, I'm really grateful for that sleep. I'm really grateful that I woke up without pressing snooze. Maybe I'm really grateful for that. I'm grateful for the fact that Derek woke up on his own and got his own breakfast before I even woke up. Woohoo, little things like that. Maybe I can just write down 3 to 5 things real quick. And then maybe eventually, as I get into that groove and it gets faster and it gets easier, maybe I can spend a little bit longer and get a little bit more detailed. Right? But I think in the beginning of just wanting to start a gratitude practice, thinking of 2 hours to take a gratitude practice, that's like insane. That almost makes you want to say, I can't do it. Right? But what if I said, take 5 minutes? You'd be like, okay, I could probably take 5 minutes. Right? And then maybe once we get in the habit of doing it for 5 minutes, maybe it extends to 10 minutes. And then maybe we get a little more detailed, and eventually after a month or so, we're taking 15 minutes, right? And then maybe after a year of doing it, we find ourselves taking an hour of gratitude practice, right? Maybe that's something that she's worked up to. Maybe that's something that she's like, wow, now I'm doing 2 hours of gratitude practice when I originally thought I couldn't even write down one thing I was grateful for. Maybe that's a process that we have to work our way to. So I'm thinking, let's start with 5 minutes, right? Like maybe we come tomorrow and for the first 5 minutes, we just write down 5 things we're grateful for, right? Like maybe I'm just in it with you guys. We'll just try it. What's the worst that's going to happen? We be grateful for things. Oh no. Like you guys, what's the worst that can happen when you're just like, all right, today's terrible, but I'm going to find 3 things to just write down. You can even roll your eyes at me if you want to. It's totally fine. I'm fine with that. But you're going to write 3 things down tomorrow that we're grateful for. And now that you already know that tomorrow we're going to come and you have to find 3 things, guess what you're going to do all day today? You're going to be looking for them. You're going to be like, oh shit, I got to come with 3 things tomorrow to write down for Jenny because I know she's going to pull this whole gratitude thing tomorrow. And so I better have my P's and Q's and I better know what I'm going to answer, right? Because that's how I think. So I don't know, maybe that's not how you guys think, but that's how I think. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to be like, oh, I was like really grateful that like Derek took a nap at like noon instead of at 5. And I'm just like super grateful for that because he can still go to bed at like a normal time. And that's something I'm going to write down tomorrow when Jenny comes on the thing. And I'm going to have number 1. I'm going to have at least 1, right? Like you're going to start looking for things now to write down tomorrow. You're going to be looking for things instead of like if I said, ooh, tomorrow we're going to do a hate journal. We're just going to write down all the things we hate. Oh my God, I can't wait, right? And so all day you're like, oh, I hate this and I hate this and I hate this. And you're like, I've got so many things I want to write down, right? Like, how does that make us feel? And what are you going to start looking for all day, right? Things you hate. If you have to look at it like that, it makes you realize how important it is to look for things you love, right? If it's so easy for us to be like, oh, I can totally write this, and I hate this, and I hate the fact that I can't walk into a public restroom, and I can't walk into an ice cream store without my mask on. Oh, like you could find these things so quickly, but you also feel that energy rise in your body, right? That your blood pressure start to pump, your heart start to pump, and you start to get worked up, and you feel that energy start working in that direction. So what if we shifted it and said, I'm just going to find things I can love. Like, what are 3 things I can write down tomorrow for Jenny when she comes on and says this? And so I know the answers, and like, oh, okay, oh my gosh, I just love that my dogs, maybe I just love my dogs. Okay, what do I love about my dogs? And like, you just kind of start to like, you feel that energy shift. I can feel it just in talking about things I want to hate versus things I want to love. I can feel the difference in how I talk, right? When I was first talking about, oh, let's find all these things that I hate. Look at my face. I'm even like, yeah, let's find it. Or I'm like, oh, what do I find all these things that I love? What if I'm like over here and it feels lighter and it feels happier and it feels like a place I would rather be, right? If I have to choose, because it is a choice, right? It's a choice whether I want to find all the things that I hate, or it's a choice on whether I want to find all the things that I love. They are equally available to me, right? Like, I could choose to hate things just as much as I could choose to love things. They're equally sitting right here on my shoulders, right? Little devil, little angel. Which one would you rather choose? Which one would you rather sit in? I'm going to choose the love every single time. Right? It's going to be hard. It's going to feel forced at times. Like, oh, I don't know what to pick for today. I'm grateful.
Especially if I'm the devil.
Oh my God. He is the devil. He's like my little devil shoulder. No. But if you have to choose, you guys, let's just choose love. Let's just choose gratitude. And let's just even giving that option of hate, let's not even give that as an option. Like, it's not even an option to go there. I must stay in gratitude. I must stay in love. And if I find myself working towards hate, maybe I need to drink some water, take a breath, step outside, and write something down that I'm grateful for. One thing, right? Maybe if you're super freaking upset because something's not working your way, step outside, take a glass of water, chug the water, breathe outside, and then say, okay, I'm grateful for the fact that I could just drink that water. I'm so grateful for this freaking water in my body. And you're going to laugh. And you're going to like kind of just be like, oh, yay, water. And you're going to like kind of like probably like feel silly, but you might actually laugh at yourself. You might actually crack a smile because you're going to think of this moment of like, Jenny just loving her water standing outside, right? But it's going to make you laugh. That's what I think is like one of the things that maybe she kind of like, I think gratitude has to come with a little bit of humor. Personally, I think that if we can write about things like, because I always think like when it starts out with gratitude journal, like not that I feel like I'm making fun of it or I'm mocking it, but sometimes the things I write down are like, yay, water. But it makes me laugh, and then I really am grateful for it. And I love that feeling of like, maybe I have to start out kind of mocking it a little bit and just like writing something super like cliche or silly, but it will lead me into that attitude of gratitude. Okay. So just try it, because I know starting a gratitude journal can be hard. Like, you're like, I don't know, like, I'm just supposed to sit here and write all these little happy thoughts. Like, it feels silly. Or maybe you're not like me and maybe this is super easy to you, but I've always been kind of a more realist, grounded kind of person, and I never understood gratitude journals until I started doing them. But I had to start out doing them, and I kind of was silly about it. Like I would write silly things, or I would write like things that I just felt like like other people would laugh at if they were to read it. But it took me time to figure it out. It took me time to get over myself in a sense. I kind of just like made fun of myself when I was doing it, and it felt silly to me. And maybe this doesn't happen to you guys, right? Like maybe you guys pick up gratitude journals and you're like, wow, this is beautiful. This is amazing. I'm just flowing with thoughts. That wasn't me in the beginning. That like was not me at all. It took me a long time to figure out how to be grateful and have a gratitude journal without it feeling, without me wanting to roll my own eyes at it. I would be like, ooh, look at your gratitude journal, Jen. Oh, you're grateful for water. It's cute. Like I would kind of make fun of myself, and I didn't even mean to, but it's just how I thought about it. I just thought it was like kind of silly, right? But that's because I was starting out and I didn't understand the benefits of it. I didn't get it until I continued to do it. And then there was like a time where maybe I didn't like laugh at myself so much, and I actually wrote something down kind of serious that I was really grateful for. And I was like, ooh, that was a good one. Yeah. But then it got more serious. Okay. So in the beginning, if you're like me, which I think a lot of you guys are, that's why we're all here, is because we all kind of resonate with each other, it's going to feel silly. It is. I think it feels silly. If it doesn't feel silly to you, I'm just jealous. Okay. But in the beginning, it was silly to me. It was. I was like, oh, so I'm just gonna like write these things down, and all of a sudden I'm just gonna feel just so great in the day, you know? And it just didn't make sense to me until I started doing it consistently. It really has changed quite a bit for me. So get a notebook that you dedicate directly to your gratitude. This is mine. This is my journal / gratitude notebook. That's all that's in it. Okay. I have lists and lists of journaling all right here. Okay. This is the only thing that goes in here. I have a different notebook for just about everything. I have a notebook here. This is for my list. These are my list notebooks. I have Post-it notes. I have 2 journals I just bought right here. These are going to be for separate things as well. Everything has its own little spot. Okay. So get a notebook that you can use for just journaling. Okay. I loved the express as if. Okay. This will be kind of the last thing that I'm going to go over today, and we'll finish it up tomorrow. But I really liked how she expressed it as if it's already happened, or as if she already has it. Okay. So when we're expressing gratitude, maybe Derek isn't the most perfect child, but you know what? I'm just going to write down that I'm really, really grateful for Derek and how amazing he is. Right. Because that keeps me in an attitude of gratitude, and maybe I'm like foreshadowing the future, right? Like maybe I can will it into reality. And so I think when we just do that, it's like we set up our minds instead of hoping, oh, I hope Derek's going to be a good kid today, right? Don't leave it to hope. Don't leave it to chance. Leave it to certainty and say, my child is amazing today. Right? Regardless of any crazy stuff that he does in the meantime, my child is amazing. Okay. So find a way to write it as if. I always think of like Clueless, as if. You guys ever watched that back in the day? I just think of it as like, write it as if it's already happening. Okay. So as you're going through your gratitude journal, say, am I writing this as if it's already happened, or am I writing it hoping? Am I wishing for it, or am I writing it like it's already here? Okay. I'm going to get more into, I want to kind of wrap up today because I think I've got more that I want to talk to, but I love number 3 about being about food. because that's what we kind of delve into. So I want to talk more about the food choices that we make and how they can affect our bodies and how they can affect our functionality and how they can affect the way we feel, the way we look, and everything like that. So we'll just pick up with that tomorrow. And then I'll have a new video for us tomorrow. So we'll finish this up just like in the first part. Actually, in the first part of tomorrow, we're doing a gratitude journal. Okay. So we're going to take 5 minutes in the beginning of our meeting tomorrow, right at 8 o'clock, 8 to 8:05. We're going to do gratitude. Don't come at 8:05 and think you can skip out on it. Okay. Come at 8. And they'll be like, I know you guys. I know you guys. See, I already know you guys. You guys will be like, oh, I'll just jump on at 8:05 because she'll be done with that part. No, 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 no. You got to come at 8. If you jump on late, I'm going to make you write down 3 things anyway. I'll call you out. I'm just kidding, guys. I'm like a terrible teacher. I'd be like, oh, you're fine. But let's talk about that tomorrow. So we'll do gratitude, then we'll talk about food, and then we'll move on to something else I want to talk to this week, which is shame. I really want to focus on shame this week. I think that there's a topic I really want to talk about, and I think that it might just go along with everything going on in the world and how we can cope with it. Cool? All righty, ladies. Happy Monday. Thank you guys for spending it with me this morning. I will see you guys tomorrow. Let's do big things. Look for your gratitude because tomorrow we're going to be writing it down. Okay? All right. Bye, guys. Have a good day.